Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to today's session, the first meetup of Built for Bharat, the DeFi Heaven. Before we begin, I'd really like to thank everyone present here. Thank you so much for coming on a Friday afternoon. It's really good to see you guys here in so much numbers. To start with, let me give you guys a bit of background about Build for Bharat, what it is actually about. Build for Bharat is a two-fold program by Binance, Smart Chain, and WazirX. It's a part of the 50 million fund that we set up earlier this year. Along with that, we have a couple of sponsors, Matic, Marlin, Google, Band, and Ankr, who've helped us through and who are with us right now here in today's session as well. Build for Bharat is basically, a program that we built for cryptopreneurs to build solutions around mini tokens, microfinancing products, blockchain AI solutions, and more. But we're even open to, better use cases, real life use cases that actually, have strength to change the world. That said, we can definitely, move ahead with our first session, which is CZ's. CZ couldn't be here with us today because he's a busy man and he had a couple of things that came in the way. So we'll be checking out a message that he sent to all of us.
Hello, everyone. This is CZ from Binance. I would like to thank everyone for participating in our Build for Bharat meetup and hackathon. I would also like to take a brief moment to thank all of our sponsors, which includes Google Cloud, Matic Network, Marlin Protocol, Band Protocol, and Ankr Cloud Infrastructure, and of course, the Binance Smart Chain Ecosystem Fund. Decentralized finance, or DeFi, refers to the ecosystem of financial applications built on the blockchain, providing a decentralized alternative to the financial services provided by banks, payment service providers, or other legacy financial institutions. The transparent, trustless, and peer-to-peer properties of the blockchain allows for new architectures for these financial applications, including money markets, decentralized exchanges, insurance, and various other financial instruments such as derivatives and prediction markets. Total value locked in DeFi has grown significantly in 2020, from under 1 billion to over 11 billion US dollars now. Numerous innovations are happening in DeFi, and some of these innovations will likely provide greater societal benefits and long-term value, while others may not last as long. With the Binance Smart Chain, developers and entrepreneurs now have a more efficient and lower cost infrastructure to experiment with and develop new innovations in the DeFi space, while making the access to DeFi applications more accessible and equitable to everyone. While there has been a lot of innovation in DeFi, many challenges and opportunities exist. New user experience continues to be a key issue, which currently limits broader access and net new users. Similarly, a number of opportunity areas are still largely untapped, from real estate, supply chain management, payments, cross-border remittances, non-fungible tokens, insurance, and smart contract risk management to cross-chain interoperability. The opportunities are endless. We hope you can be creative and come up with innovative solutions to help solve real-world problems. At Binance, we are doing a number of things to support and grow the ecosystem of DeFi projects, building on the Binance Smart Chain. This Build for Bharat hackathon is a good example. We have a Binance Smart Chain fund, which is a $100 million US fund specifically to help developers and projects to grow in this ecosystem. We have Binance X, which is an early stage grant program for developers working on early stage concepts or prototypes. We have Binance Labs, which invest in slightly more mature projects. And we also have Binance Launchpad, which helps entrepreneurs and projects raise money using cryptocurrencies around the world. And we also have listing services for both Binance DEX and Binance.com, the centralized exchange, which provides liquidity for different tokens in the ecosystem. We also have the marketing and PR support to help projects with your user acquisition and growth. So please do feel free to reach out to our teams for help in these areas. And we encourage developers and entrepreneurs to continue to innovate and experiment with new ideas in DeFi. And we hope I wish you luck in the next couple of days for this hackathon as well as beyond. Thank you so much.
Great. As someone who's a fangirl of CZ, this was really nice for me. I don't know about you guys, but let's move forward with our next session, which is overview of DeFi, understanding progressive decentralization by Samsul Karim from the Binance Chain team, of course. He's also one of the most active decision makers in the Hackathon and Acceleration program. Samsul has a background in cloud and SaaS, and he's worked before with Consensus, where he's worked around solutions in real estate, finance, sports, etc., and a lot more than that. So, guys, let's welcome Sammy. And Sammy, it's over to you.
Great. So let's start with a brief history about Binance Smart Chain. So we launched Binance Smart Chain in the 1st of September. So Binance Chain, some of you may know, was launched last year, and Binance Chain is the single-purpose high-performance chain that runs the Binance DEX, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't have the ability to run applications or smart contracts, and that was really one of the most requested features we got from the community. So we went about designing Binance Smart Chain to accommodate that functionality, and there was a number of key considerations that went into the design. One of which is around the Binance worldview, that there will be an internet of blockchains, with Ethereum likely serving as a global settlement layer. So because of that, we wanted to make it as easy as possible for the very large developer community within Ethereum, within the Ethereum ecosystem, to be able to build on Binance Smart Chain. And so today, developers can use all of the existing developer tooling, so Remix, Truffle, MetaMask, and so on. So Binance Smart Chain also has a different consensus mechanism, which is proof of staked authority. So staking as well as transaction fees are denominated in BNB. And the really big advantages of the Binance Smart Chain infrastructure are that it's producing blocks every 3 seconds, so it's very fast. And the biggest advantage is really around transaction fees. So the transaction fees, to give you an idea, is around 1 to 3 cents per transaction. So it's a significantly cheaper infrastructure for developers and project teams to be able to build and experiment with ideas. There's a number of things that we're doing from within the Binance, as Binance, to grow the ecosystem around Binance Smart Chain. CZ talked a little bit about that. So funding is one. We have the Binance Smart Chain Fund, as well as other funding sources like our M&A and investments team, as well as the Binance X team. We also can provide marketing and PR support, which can provide a lot of support for projects to help with user growth and acquisition, as well as other parts of the Binance ecosystem that can be very beneficial for teams building on Binance Smart Chain. So that's a small overview about Binance Smart Chain. So let's talk a little bit now about progressive decentralization in building DeFi applications. So decentralization for not only is important, but not only important for DeFi applications, for a couple of factors. The primary factor is really around how decentralization has a linear correlation with trust from developers as well as the users and communities using these applications and protocols. But Decentralization when building a DeFi protocol is not binary. So it doesn't happen from day one, and it's not really efficient if it does happen early. So that's where I call it the progressive decentralization, and happens over phases over time. And we're going to talk more about this later on in the presentation. So while decentralization is a core characteristic of DeFi protocols, there's others as well. So some of these are quite important. So open source is one, and that because these DeFi protocols are largely open source, it also allows for composability. And that's where you get this terminology about money Legos when describing different DeFi apps and capabilities. So that's essentially the ability for DeFi projects to be built on top of others. So composability as well is a key characteristic of a number of the DeFi applications. Another really important thing is about the DeFi applications being developer focused. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later on in the presentation and why this is important. So here I'm sharing with you a three-phased approach of how you can achieve decentralization. And it's sequential. So really in phase one, your key focus for the project team is about achieving product market fit. Once you've reached a stage where you have gained sufficient traction, that's when you start moving into phase two and start thinking about different considerations related to community building. So phase 2 and 3 is really, that's one of the key beauties around blockchains, because that's unique to blockchain that allows you to do this, is build a community around your product and protocol, and then eventually transfer ownership and achieve a higher level of decentralization. But the important point to note here is that these steps are sequential, and it also allows the project teams to really focus on the right things at the right stage in those projects. So phase 1 is really about product market fit, and this phase is no different. It applies for any project team developing a project, and really for any startup. So the core ingredients are really having a solid team. That's your developers as well as designers and product leadership. At this stage, there's really no decentralization that's happening. It's built and developed by, the product is built and developed by a core team, and it has to be like that, because community or design by community is not efficient at this stage. So you really need that product leadership driving design decisions, and the ability to bring in the right type, hire the right developers, so that you have lean development, and really importantly, quick learning and rapid iteration. So phase 1 looks the same for really products outside of the blockchain space, or any product development or startup. I think the important points at this stage is that the project teams communicate with the communities about where control exists. So for example, the core team will have administrative privileges over smart contracts. So I think the key thing is that the communication with the community about control and where that exists. Also importantly, ideally the products shouldn't have a token at this stage. It can be a limiting factor, can be a distraction as well. So there might be some ideas from the project team about how a token can be used, but generally not a great idea to have a token implemented and used in the protocol at this stage, when you're really just building the core product and building the user base around that. At early signs of product traction, so that's when you have, for example, a growing user base, you have built some level of a developer ecosystem around your product, and you're showing signs of network effects, that's when you start thinking about moving to phase 2. So phase 2 is quite difficult. There's a lot of challenges around that, and this is where your development sprints and your sprints are going to start looking quite different. So here the key aspects are around how you're going to start building your developer community, and how you're going to encourage participation from this developer community on your product and protocol. Here, teams can leverage a lot of best practices from open source development. So this includes things like having really good documentation, thinking about a developer evangelism program, um, also developing bounties as well as grants can be a great way to invite community participation. And this over time is going to do a couple of important things. So one is reducing the dependency on the core development team. And a number of the more mature or really well-used DeFi protocols have done exactly this. So they've done things like, for example, implementing a 48-hour delay on upgrades that are happening or any changes that are happening in the protocol. So that allows time for the community to review and this, as well as respond and comment on those changes. I think what the key thing really at this stage is about how the project teams are going to engage their community and how they start thinking about introducing incentive mechanisms that drive wider participation from community members. One of the ways that project teams have also done this is around marketing and celebrating community success stories. So any kind of suggestions or any kind of development that's being done by developers in the community, marketing and celebrating those successes really well and broadly across the community. This is also the stage where you really want to start thinking about your token distribution model and how that's going to tie in with community participation going forward. So of course, you also want to consider how the core team, how that plays in with the core team, as well as how you want to continue the fair distribution of economic value that's generated by these DeFi protocols, and how you're going to distribute that with the community. Also considering how you want to fairly distribute that value to the early participants. Now, these models, there's not really a perfect model, and there's no one-size-fits-all model. It's really about developing models by testing those in small groups and then scaling them. At this point in time as well is when you want to start thinking about how that execution plan is going to happen. And that's going to be really a trigger for when the protocol becomes not dependent on the core team. When you have these key parts in place, so you have a well thought out, tested token distribution model, when you have a really engaged community, that's when you're going to start thinking about how to execute on transfer of ownership to the community. When you have these core ingredients well set up, that's when you're going to move to phase 3. And this is where you're going to achieve that high level of decentralization. So once you've executed on that plan, you're going to transfer ownership to the community. So that can happen in a number of different ways. So it could be calling your smart contracts, which mints the tokens and starts distributing those to the community team members, as well as transitioning or transferring ownership to a multi-signature address that's controlling the smart contracts. And at that stage, the role of the team changes. So you will still have a core development team that can be driving upgrades and product development in alignment with the community. But then you're also going to have team members that are much more engaged in participating in the conversations around governance and other proposals that come through as part of the governance from the community. And then also importantly is that the core team is working on managing the execution of whatever are the decisions and outcomes from proposals that take place as part of governance. So these are really 3 stages of how project teams should be thinking about achieving decentralization over a period of time. So to summarize, when you're going to start, you're really focused 100% on product market fit, developing a product that users want. Once you've achieved that, then you're going to start thinking and putting more efforts into building a community around that product. thinking about the incentive and token distribution model around how you're going to continue to have community participation while still rewarding fairly the core team as well as early contributors. Once you have that community built, you have an engaged community, you have a well thought out token distribution plan, that's when you're going to execute on the transfer of ownership to the community. So we encourage you to come and build on Binance Smart Chain. We're very willing to support project teams. There's numerous ways you can reach us. We look forward to your continued participation and support. I'll be happy to take some questions if there are any. I haven't been watching the chat.
Hey guys, if you all have any questions for Samsul here, please type it down in the live chat session so we can answer them. Let's wait for a bit, Samsul, and let's just take a couple of questions.
I'll also share my Twitter here, so you can feel free to reach me there.
So there are a couple of questions here. Sammy, if you can head to the question section, if you can see, it's on the right side.
So there's a question from Alexi. So we are interested to, we're interested to speak to projects at whatever stage they're in. So whether that's a team with a new idea, but it could be also teams that have a working product or have an existing community, where we are interested to speak with everybody. So it doesn't need to be new projects, can be existing projects. Feel free to reach out to us.
Rahul Mattal has a question, if you can check it out. In terms of launching a product in India, will it be feasible to create something that utilizes UPI gateway along with direct interaction with BSE? What do you think will be the government's stand over this? Rahul, if you have questions like this, you can definitely DM us and we'll talk about it, but we don't really know anything around regulations or the government. But when you want to discuss, how you can build, how you can utilize UPI gateways along with direct interaction with BSE, we'll definitely put you in touch with someone from the team who'll help you out understand that better. Zishant here has a question. Can you explain with some sample DeFi application?
Sample DeFi application. So sure. So I think from what I've talked about, Compound is a really good example. So they've done exactly these steps. So in the early stages, they didn't have a token. They were just focused on building out the Compound money markets. And they did a really good job at building a community around them. So at certain points of the Compound project, the Compound homepage was essentially just applications that were building on top of Compound. And then when they did recently when they did their token launch, it was designed in a way that really that rewarded the most active community participants, but also the early contributors to the Compound protocol. So I think Compound as a case study is a really great example that achieved this progressive decentralization over a period of time using these 3 steps. And there's many others that I'm not mentioning, but I think Compound is a great example.
Great.
I've also put someone in the chat mentioned they can't Twitter on can't connect on DM, but you can also connect with me on Telegram here. And I've shared my email as well. So plenty of ways for you guys to connect with me. Feel free to get in touch.
There's one more question by Saurav, who's a DApp architect. He's asking, I'm wondering, do you guys provide any framework regarding token economics, token engineering?
We can provide advice on these issues. So while we can provide, there's not really a perfect model or like a one-size-fits-all for these. They're really project-specific and depends on number of different factors, but we'd be happy to share some insights and advise on a case-to-case basis.
Are you only considering the projects that are built on top of BSC and not in other chains? Trustless Capital founder. So, yeah, please, Sammy, go ahead.
Yeah, so the Binance Smart Chain Fund, as well as the support and these kind of programs, we are really focusing on projects that are building on Binance Smart Chain.
Great. All right. Do you guys have any other questions around DeFi, around BSC? That Samsul you can answer? Someone raised hand. Okay.
Oh, okay. I just found the questions.
All right. Tanmay has a question here. How do we avoid resist censorship or at least be tolerant for a DeFi application? I'm actually not very sure what the question means, but did you understand that, Samsul?
Yeah, so if I did understand it properly, so DeFi applications are by nature censorship resistant because they are operating or they're built on a public blockchain. That's one of the inherent capabilities of the public blockchain is that it is censorship resistant. So you're interacting with the DeFi protocols with a wallet address. So the wallet address doesn't assume anything about the person, where they are. I mean, it could be a person, could be a group of people, could be an AI, could be anything. So in that way, public blockchains are inherently censorship resistant. I hope that answers your question.
Sachin Grover has a question. Is there any NFT DeFi project already running on BSC?
There are a number that are coming out soon, I think, yes. And generally, I think the NFT space is a hot topic right now in DeFi, so I expect to see more innovative use cases of integrating DeFi and NFTs coming soon, and we encourage this community and this group as well to start thinking about those kind of ideas.
Soumya Kanti Bhattacharya has a very interesting question. Is it possible to create a simple DeFi yield farming app?
So I think there's already a lot of activity in that space. Like the yield farming in DeFi is something that's being done, and there's a lot. It's a very crowded space. So I would. So while the yield farming in DeFi is super crowded, there's a lot of other areas within DeFi that are still with lots of opportunities for early movers in that space.
Interesting. Rahul Mittal's question, but if Binance Smart Chain requires KYC AML for user participation, making trades over BC. We didn't really get your question, Rahul. If you can ask us again, that'd be great. How about fantasy sports betting using native ERC20 tokens? Bikram Basak, founder, Trade Exports.
Sure. So Binance Smart Chain uses a token has a number of token standards. So BB20 is the equivalent of the ERC20 token contract on Ethereum. But so it's important to note that Binance Smart Chain is permissionless. Anybody can build on Binance Smart Chain. There's and anybody can also use Binance Smart Chain. There's no KYC, there's no AML, unless it's a requirement built by the application developers themselves. So I've seen here one of the questions was around Nexus Mutual, and it's not only Nexus Mutual, but there are others as well that do require KYC to remain compliant in certain jurisdictions. But it's not a requirement. There's no KYC requirement to use Binance Smart Chain. It's completely permissionless in the same way that Ethereum is completely permissionless.
All right. Samsul, if we go to the questions tab, you'll see a couple of questions there. You can just like pick out whichever you're comfortable with answering.
Sure, just give me a second.
There's Sajjan Nair, founder of ePlay, who's asking a DeFi, I'm guessing, product is easier to build than a centralized exchange since the large capital needed to create a liquidity pool for a centralized exchange is outsourced to mass in DeFi. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to...
Guys, you all can definitely raise your hands if you all have any questions. Samsul, if you don't mind, someone has raised their hand. Can I grant them access?
Yep.
Okay.
In the meantime, there is one question from Nate from Spartan Protocol. So Nate asked a question about trust is a major part in any DeFi protocol or system. Spartan Protocol launched on Binance Smart Chain with no allocation for founders, teams, or developers. Would you agree removing the risk of devs, founders, airdrop, recent dumping is a major positive? So what I can comment on that is that definitely. So Binance Smart Chain, again, I'll say is permissionless, right? So any developer team can build and launch a product there with their own token economics. However, I think generally our view is that or I'll say this, my personal view is that we like teams that dump tech and not tokens.
Aditya Saraf has a question. Do you see DeFi apps going mainstream in the near future, such as AMMs, tokenized insurance, DEX, etc.?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Aditya. So I think it's going to happen over time. There's been a lot of innovation happened in 2020 in the DeFi space, but I think it's still a long way to go. And there's still a lot of areas which are still largely untouched. Areas like payment streaming, around integrating real world assets into DeFi. So real estate assets, supply chain, could be tokenized securities, and a number of other areas. But I think some of the innovations, and CZ's touched on this as well in his talk, is some of these innovations might not last as long, whereas others will provide more longing benefits. I think the only thing that is unclear is really the timing. I think over a period of time it is going to happen and will become more and more mainstream, but there's still a lot of challenges. User experience is a key one, right? So I think of it like I call it like the grandmother problem. So would my grandmother could easily be able to go and use one of these applications? Today, that's not really the case. So, but I think that's also a big opportunity area for project teams to develop solutions that make that user experience much easier and much more accessible to a broader range of, like a broader audience.
Great. So Sajjan Nair has elaborated his question. He's basically asking us that, is it cheaper to make a DeFi product than to make a CeFi product? Because for CeFi products, you really need to have a pool of assets that you accumulate over time, etc. So he's asking if a DeFi product is easier to create than a CeFi product.
Yeah, so I think yes. Generally, the answer is generally yes, because developing a DeFi project, you still have the ability to have a core and lean team in the beginning. If you have really good developers, it's the capital costs are going to be much lower compared to developing a centralized exchange.
Got it. Ritvik Das is yep, please.
There's a question from Ryan Dennis. This question is about is decentralized finance more profitable compared to the way current centralized finance systems like banks work? It's a good question. So I think it's not really about, so one part of it is profitability, but I think it's also about the cost of those services, right? So today in a lot of financial services offered by financial institutions, payment service providers, and other financial institutions in the legacy financial market infrastructure and world, there's a lot of intermediaries there, and they're more often than not seeking rent. So with DeFi, because it's of the peer-to-peer nature of these protocols, the amount of value extracted by these intermediaries that's where that value is really transferred between the market participants in DeFi protocols. So it does become more efficient. So I think if you look at certain examples like a credit card transaction, for example. So I think Visa charges like a 2% fee, or let's say it's a 1% fee. Whereas now with payment solutions that are built on infrastructure like Binance Smart Chain, the fee itself is significantly orders of multitude cheaper. So that allows the creation of new types of payment methods as well. So previously it was not really possible or cost effective to to make a payment of 50 cents, because what Visa is going to take is around 40 cents. So those kind of changes will make new kind of services more feasible and less expensive to use.
So thank you so much for helping us out. Like, I think it was pretty cool. Like, I really like how working with Binance has given all of us the sense of building for the community, and that's really true. And it goes with the essence of Bitcoin, making finance distributed, decentralized, and community owned. So thank you so much for being here with us, Samsul. It was really fun.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
Our next session is with someone who's truly admired in the Indian crypto space. He's the initiator of India Wants Crypto campaign and also the founder and CEO of one of the leading crypto exchanges in India, WazirX. Let's welcome Nischal here. Nischal, we're so glad that you could join us today.
Thanks for having me, Simran. Glad to be here. Hey everyone, my name is Nischal and I'm the CEO and founder of WazirX. We're I can't turn on the camera. Can you guys see me? All right, cool. Yeah, so what I'm going to do today is tell you how to build from 0 to 1. And I've done that twice before. First with my first startup called Crowdfire, where I scaled it from 0 to 20 million users. And then WazirX, where we built a multi-million-dollar business in under 18 months, from launch to getting acquired by Binance. So here we go. The first and the best thing is you just build a product that people love. That's all that you need to do. Of course, it's easier said than done, because we all know that building a product that users love is what it needs to be, but how do you do that? So my idea with this session is I'll break that down and lay it out for you on how to go about this. But before that, I think the reason I included this statement was to clear one confusion that a lot of people have, which is what is a product? the moment you hear the term product, you start thinking of the app or the website. But if you really think about a product, how I see that is your entire company. It's your app, your website. It's just part of your product. But a product is your entire company, and that involves every function that a company has to perform, including marketing, your business, um, anything in your technology, everything. All of this together is a product. And when you really succeed at building something amazing is when you find success, which is why I'm sure you must have come across a lot of times you'll come across a product which looks beautiful, which maybe really works well, but then you wonder, why does this product not have enough users, or why are not enough people talking about it? And if you build products, you'll realize I've had such an experience where I built a product which I truly thought was amazing, but I lacked in some other areas like marketing, taking it to market, getting feedback, innovating, iterating. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Let's go to the first thing. The first and most important, and often something that is ignored, is identifying a problem. What I've seen a lot of people do is they first build the product, and then they try to see what problem it solves. You go backwards, and that's not really the right way, because, and especially like I'm a developer myself, I've had times where I've just built something and said, wow, this works well. Now let me see if someone wants it. I would say go the right way, which is first, don't build something. First, look out, talk to people, identify a problem. Now the question is, how do you identify a problem? And there are various ways to do this. But what has worked for me is whatever I faced in my everyday life, problems that I face in my everyday lives, I've tried to figure out if there's something that is worth solving, which means something that I'm passionate about, and something that other people also face, if that problem. For example, now my first startup, it was a social media management app. So what I used to do is spend a lot of time on Twitter. I still spend a lot of time on Twitter. I used to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, Facebook. So a lot of these social networks. And I found that I was constantly switching tabs, going to each social network and spending a lot of my time. So I said, why not build an app that can compress this time that I'm spending? And what if I could share my update from a single place to all the social networks? And that's how I ended up building my first product, a social media management app. And surprisingly, everyone else around me found that to be a problem, where they were wasting time on each social network. And that's how Crowdfire, my first product, went viral. Reached 1 million users, I think, within maybe 12 to 15 months, all bootstrapped. And I was still working part-time by the time it reached 1 million users, working only on Saturdays and Sundays on the product. So identifying a problem, I would say for me, what has worked is when the problem comes to you. Same with WazirX. In 2017, I was trying to buy cryptocurrency online in India, and I realized that the products that existed were not really up to the market. In fact, I think it took me 2 days or 3 days to buy my first Bitcoin. And by that time, the price had changed drastically. That was not the price I wanted to enter, but I had to enter at that price because of the way the products were built. And that's where I identified that there definitely is a problem. The other thing is the problems don't really exist just in the product. So don't be, don't use a product and you're like, okay, this product does not have this feature, so maybe this is the problem. It's again a combination. For example, in the case of crypto exchange in India, I also saw that none of the founders were very active with the community. And when it comes to financial products, I think trust is important, and trust comes from the founders being active. So I saw that that also was lacking. So there were multiple pieces that were broken. So don't always look at just one feature being broken and say, I'll build a replacement, because that's very easy to find. You use Twitter, you'll find 100 problems, but that does not mean you can really go and solve that and beat Twitter or build a better Twitter. It has to be a combination of things that are broken in an offering, and then I think you should go after that problem. So this is the most important part, identifying a problem. Next is, so you've now found a problem after a lot of time. Sometimes it takes a day to find a problem. Sometimes it takes years to find a problem. But once you find the problem, the thing that you need to do is go to market fast. And I say this for most of us, we don't have the luxury of time and resources and bandwidth to spend like a long time going to market. Like you'll always hear about large companies having like a research team, and then they spend a lot of time building these products, and eventually they launch after maybe a year or 2 years of work. But as a startup, you need to move fast. Now, again, when I say fast, I usually try to break products into two kind of products. One is an innovative product, which means you found a problem and you built a solution that no one else offers. You don't have a direct competitor or a product that you can compare with. The second is where you have a problem, there are solutions, you're going to build a better one. Now, if you have found an innovative solution, I would say don't spend more than maybe 2 to 3 weeks going to market. Because when it's innovative, no one is going to judge how your UI looks, how your product functions, because you're going to be the first to market. In fact, the faster you go to market, the faster you can change things and understand from feedback. If you're going to build a competing product where you know there is a solution, definitely you'll have to spend more time. Like in our case, we spent 3 months on WazirX because we knew there were exchanges. In my first product, I spent just, I think, 4 days to build the first version because there was no solution back then. So look at what the market exists today and take the right decision. Competing products, you definitely have to build better than what they are, because if you build worst and launch, you're no better than them. So that is going to take some time. But an innovative product, the advantage of innovation is going to market faster. But time it, have a deadline and meet that deadline. If you do not, what will happen is you'll build features that you think I should build feature A, then you'll build feature B, C, and you'll just be in that building zone and never go to market. So have a deadline and go to market. We've always done that, both our products. Next, now that you've quickly built, and this is where, again, the reason why I said go to market fast is there's nothing better. There's no product manager in this world who can beat what user feedback can bring to you. There's no founder who can think better than what users or customers can provide the feedback. And this feedback comes from going to market fast. And once you get that feedback, especially in the early days as a startup, one advantage that you have compared to, let's say, your competitors or people who are in startups that are bigger than you, is you can change fast. Because you're a small team, you're a new product, you have less users. The advantage that you have is being able to iterate and being able to change things and being able to bring features that your bigger competitors or largest products in the market cannot do. So take advantage of that, which means you launch a product and people say, I love this, but can you also build this, or can you also change this? You should do that faster if enough people in your user base ask for it. So have that mentality that once you go, you're going to iterate, you're going to change, listening to user feedback, because your competitors, the larger ones who are already in the market, cannot do that. Always play to your strengths. When you're small, your strength is being small, and which means you can quickly change and use that. I'll give you an example of what we did at WazirX. I'm sure most of you know, when we launched, after 3 weeks of launching, the banking ban in India came. And while some larger exchanges decided to either shut down or leave the country, because we were small, we quickly built our peer-to-peer method, and we knew that without a bank also we could exist. And what we did is we took advantage of the fact we were small, because we decided quickly. We saw that and we said, let's build this. Let's build the next one. We didn't have to wait too much. We didn't have to have a company meeting. It was like 5 minutes, 10 minutes of discussion, and we said, let's go. And we built it. So take advantage of your size. Small means you can do a lot of things that the large players can't, and do that. Don't copy them, because when you copy, they're doing something because they have 50 people, 100 people in the team. And that's not built for you or meant for you. So take advantage, iterate, innovate. Now, those were just the 3 things. And then you just repeat that. Repeat till you're big enough. And then I think once you're big, I'm not the right guy to tell you. But from 0 to 1, those 3 steps are amazing for you. I've applied that time and again in my startups. This is the second part, marketing. Now, this is something that is, if you come from a technical background or a product background, marketing is something that is often ignored to a large extent, which again comes from the false understanding of what a product is, where people start thinking that I'm building a product, I'm going to build an amazing UI, UX, amazing technology, it will scale to 100,000 users. But the thing that brings those 100,000 users is your marketing. And if you do not focus it on day one, it should not be an afterthought, basically. Because a lot of startups, I realize, when I talk to them, they keep talking about the product. And when I ask them, what's your strategy to go to market, or how are you going to get your first 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 users, they really don't have a plan. So you should think about marketing right from day one. Like you found the problem, you're thinking of the solution. Also think, how do I market this solution? And here are the next few slides. I'm going to talk about a few things that I've done, which has helped me in marketing. Now, see, again, you have to play to your strength. All right. What I'm going to tell you here is I played to my strength. Marketing, you can do hundreds of different things in marketing, but this is something that worked for me. So the first was founder-driven trust. Back in the day in 2017, when we were launching WazirX, because I saw that not a lot of exchange founders were active on social media, I thought, why not change that? Why not be in front of people instead of being behind the scene? And I started actively engaging and discussing with everyone in the crypto ecosystem in India. I started tweeting about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I started discussing. I started talking to people. One, it helped me understand what the problems were. Second, it helped people understand who was the person behind WazirX. And at least in the financial markets, I'm sure if all of you must be looking to build for the crypto ecosystem, trust is important because you're building a product where people are going to trust you with their money, with their wealth. And to have that trust comes from knowledge, from understanding, from knowing. You're more likely to go for a financial product where you trust that product rather than just because a product has 5 more features than the other. Like, feature comparison comes later, but your trust comparison comes first. So right from day one, we decided that we would go with trust as the factor. And that's helped us very beautifully. So if you have the opportunity at least in the crypto ecosystem, there's still a lot of bandwidth to go and be seen as a founder who's building something. I would strongly encourage all of you to do that. Second is this again is very specific to crypto, creating a tribe or building a community. As a founder, now let's say you've built some trust, people know you, and you're talking to your customers. You could probably reach 100 people or 1,000 people. But how do you reach 10,000 people, 100,000 or 1,000,000 people is if the people that you're connected to, even they are going to engage and bring more people. And that happens when you build a community. At WazirX also, we've done that. We've constantly engaged the community in helping us grow. And if you look at it, most times what happens is if you solved a problem, people usually love introducing that product to their friends because people trust that product, they love it. But they need a bit of a push. You need to ask them to share it with their friends and family. You need to involve them. Now, how did we do that in WazirX? I'll give you a simple example. Right from day one, even before launch, we launched our WRX distribution program, where we reserved 15% of our tokens for our community. So, when you think about creating a community, it does not mean you just talk about I'll create a community. You open a Facebook group or a Telegram group, and you get 10,000 people and you've built a community. That's not how it happens. You need to really, I would say, put everything into it. And for us, that meant first putting value into it. Value was the WRX that we reserved for our community. And we truly believe that as our product grows, the community should also benefit, especially the early adopters. So that's how we went about building this. And everything else is, just an enabler, like having groups and all. Those are just enablers. But what is the reason people would go after you is when you show what you truly stand for. So in crypto, I would say you have to 100% build a community. There is no crypto product that can grow without the community. This is the most important thing, I believe, even more than a founder. A founder can be less known, but the community has to be strong. The third thing is be data driven. This, I think we were data driven in the beginning, but I think this is something I learned with my time at Binance. The amount of focus that the company has on data, I think everyone should just try to inculcate that from day one. In fact, I think I should have done this faster. So what what we do now is every week we have a meeting where we only discuss numbers. We objectively discuss numbers. And I would say even from day one, what you could do is day one, what happens is you don't have a lot of numbers, but still try to pick 2 or 3 numbers. You might start with 0. One of your number could be the number of interactions you're having on social media, for example. When you think about community, you need to be interacting. So, and you could have 0 interaction, but at least you have a number. The benefit of looking at numbers on a weekly basis is that you know what to chase, and not just you, even your team knows what to chase. And there's something about numbers. When you see the number, you just want to increase it, or if it's a bad number, you want to decrease it. It's just I think human behavior. You look at your bank account every day. For some reason, you just want more money. Doesn't matter whether you're going to use that money or not. So I think having numbers in front of you every week, that's very, very important. And this is what is data driven, what it means. Many people think that as we grow, we will look at numbers later. Right now, let me just build and let me just make the product better. But it really starts from day one. Have the metrics, share it with everyone in your team, discuss it. I think these 3 steps are very, very important. So that's the marketing part. Now, the other aspect of growing is building a team. And I'm sure everyone says that build an A team, but how do you go about it? So one of the mistakes I've seen founders make is hiring for the wrong function. So see, it's a journey, and there are different hurdles. You need to find the right kind of skill set at the right time, which means, let's say you are a founder. It starts from finding the co-founder, for example. You are a technical founder. You are good at technology. Don't go and find one more guy who understands technology. Go and find someone who can probably be, the marketing person. Maybe that's a good co-founder, or someone who understands business. That's a good co-founder. So find complementing skill sets, right from your co-founder to the team hires that you do, and all of these pieces should come together. See, think of your startup like how you go about fitness. If you're going to just work on one part of your body, that's not the right way to stay fit. You're going to have to work on all parts. It's similar to this. When you're building a team, you're choosing the right skill sets, and it has to be complementary to everyone else in the team, especially in the early days. If you have 5 or 6 people in the team, make sure there are different functions among those 6 people that everyone can handle. Because you as a founder might be good at one thing, and it's okay to just be good at that. Find people for the rest. So this is important. And find people who are passionate about what they do. I think more than their background and what colleges they came from, what companies, once you talk to people, you'll understand whether they're passionate and whether they want to do things. I think these 2 are the best things. And especially in a startup in the early days, it'll be very hard for you to convince people from large companies to join you, because they're probably comfortable in their jobs. So you have to find those diamonds in the coal mine, and that happens if you look for passion rather than background. Passion trumps everything, I think, in finding your team. So all of this, you follow all of this. I think, at least for me, it's worked twice. You will probably be able to take your company from 0 to 1, and then scale it further. But there can also be times when things don't go right. For example, you found the problem, you built a solution, you focus on everything, yet there's no traction, or not enough adoption. So I think have a deadline, have a target, saying in 3 months I'm going to do X amount in revenues, or I'm going to reach X number of users. And if you hit maybe 70 to 80% of your target, you can go the next quarter. But if it's not going in the right direction, let's say you only achieve 5, 10%, 20% of your target, I think you need to really look through, and maybe you need to pivot. Pivot meaning you can completely change it, or maybe change the product in the direction in which your data shows you that people don't like these features, or maybe there's a different problem in your sector that you can solve. Pivot, or maybe shut down and look for something new. But be ready for that, because I think one of the things I've seen is people spending a lot of time on ground zero and not growing, and that's it's better to be wrapping up things than keeping it in between. So this is very important to identify. And if you do not know what the right metrics are to change, I think one of the things what you could do is look at your week-on-week growth or a month-on-month growth. And I don't know what percentage, but there should be a positive growth. It can be 1%, 5%, because if you see that every month you're growing, no matter what, you can always accelerate that growth as you grow. But it should be growing. It should not be going downwards. It should not be flat, because both of these are either flat or downward trend means your product is really not getting adoption. And then you need to start thinking what to do. I hope this does not happen, but don't treat that as failure. It's a great way to learn and understand what you're building and what people wanted. Even if you fail, I think there's a lot to learn from that. Failures have helped me a lot in building the next product in a better way and not repeating the same mistakes. So yeah, I think that's about it. This is I think what I wanted to share with all of you. I hope you've got some insights from this.
Great, Nischal. Would you like to take some questions out?
Sure.
Perfect. So if you can just check the questions tab.
Should I just randomly pick questions?
Yep.
Okay, what are the primary sets of numbers you as a founder would be seeing on a daily basis across product and marketing? See, the metrics keep changing at various stages. But I think on day one, when you're starting out, the biggest and the best metric to track is the number of users. And from product point of view, if you're looking at quality, I think your reviews on your Play Store or App Store might be a good function of that. So yeah, I think number of people who are signing up and the reviews, ratings, are you at maybe anything over 4, I think is a good rating on the Play Store or the App Store. So these two metrics, you could just start with that. RBI is adamant on banning crypto. How are you looking at these challenges? See, it's crypto. You have a lot of challenges because it's innovative, it's new. So take it as it comes. Just improvise. I think we improvised by building P2P when RBI banned the banking option for us. So you just have to take it and find the right solution. Till it's not illegal, you can keep building. And I don't think it's going to be illegal in India because it's an innovative technology. So these are just hurdles. It's okay. You jump over them. Do you marketing still in? What's up with WRX and DeFi? DeFi is coming soon. Team is working on it, probably in the last stages now. You're so young and already successful. Not really, but have you faced any challenges or have you been treated differently because of your young age? Yeah, I mean, my first startup, I started really early, but no, not really. I think, in fact, I wish I was younger or young again, because I think young people have the advantage in a startup. They can go really fast compared to, once you grow older, a lot more responsibilities come up. So if you're young, I think that's your advantage. You should make full use of that. You can just survive on Maggie noodles and work the whole night. There's no difference for you. I think young is good. What else? Why premium prices exist in India? This question never leaves me. It's been 3 years I've been answering this question. There's a long and complicated answer to that, but the simpler answer is it's pure demand and supply. We are an open platform, and most of the exchanges are open platforms. So based on demand and supply, your prices fluctuate. Someday, hopefully, it should be on par with the global prices. But right now, you have to just accept that there's less supply of crypto in India compared to the demand. You spoke about marketing. How are you running Facebook and Google advertising, considering it's banned there? It's banned, then you can't run it. You find other ways. They might be good. Facebook and Google might be good, ways for you to grow. But if you don't have that option, find the other option. There are a lot of other ways where you can advertise crypto, like go to crypto bloggers and probably advertise on their blog. You will encourage them as well as help yourself. So don't go after things that are not there. Don't hit your head against a wall. Just ignore and go and find the other thing that works for you. That's the best way to grow fast. What else is there? What's your advice for crypto startups to get banking support in India now? See, right now, there is no ban on banking in India, so you should get access. But again, it depends bank to bank. I would say if you are able to create a proper relationship, it's finance, it's centralized finance. You need to build relationships. In the DeFi world, you just have to go and use APIs without asking anyone. Live with it. Talk to the bank managers. Tell them you're building something. Tell them who you are. Once they have trust on you, they'll probably give you the banking access. Any pointer on how to make sure that you won't deliver raw product when you're iterating fast? Especially, see, I think I told this. If you're innovating, there is no such thing as raw. Why? The beauty of innovation is that nobody knows what is raw and what is finished. So you don't have to worry at all. If you're innovating, just go to market. My first version of my first product, if you see that now, I don't think you will ask me any questions about success. But I think you just go to market. And if it is a competing product, you again have benchmarks with the existing product. It's that easy. Yeah, I think a lot more questions. Simran, you want me to stop?
That'd be great if we could wrap it up.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, time's up.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for your questions. You guys can definitely ping Nischal. He's very active on Twitter. So when you guys have a question, please do ping him. Nischal, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really liked your talk. 0 to 1 is one of my favorite books, and it was really great seeing you here be with us. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, Simran.
Thanks. Our next session is a panel discussion. We have Sandeep here from Matic. We have Ryan, we have Soravis, and we have Prateek. Everyone, please introduce yourselves and let's get started with the session. We're already a couple of minutes late. Sandeep, you want to go first?
Yes. So thanks, Simran and Raghu for inviting me here. I am Sandeep. I am one of the co-founders at Matic Network. And Matic Network is a layer 2 scaling solution built on top of Ethereum currently. And it helps to scale the blockchain applications, be it gaming, DeFi, whatnot. So it's a general scaling solution for blockchains. Yeah.
Great. Ryan, Soravis, you guys want to go next? Soravis, you can go next.
Sure. Hi, guys. I'm Soravis, CEO of a band protocol. What we do is essentially we are an Oracle solution, which means we connect off-chain information and data to a smart contract and decentralized applications. So DeFi's and other application on blockchain can utilize data outside of the blockchain for the application.
Great. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah. Great.
Hey.
Prateek, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, I'm Prateek. I'm a researcher at Marlin. Marlin basically works on the networking layer to make blockchain networks faster. Yeah, I guess, and yeah, we work on improving network layer speeds as well as full node incentivization and things in that area. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks, Prateek. Ryan's introduction is left, but he left us. I think he has some internet issues. We have Raghu here today with us, who is the founder of Lumos Labs, and he's here to help me out to talk to all of our founders here. Thank you for coming, Raghu.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So I think we can begin, and Ryan will join in. So the first thing that we're going to discuss about is the difference between DeFi and CeFi. So what do you guys think? Like, what's DeFi? What do you guys want to explain DeFi as? And what do you guys want to explain CeFi as? What do you guys think is the main difference between this? And what, separates both the space, like the decentralized finance space and the centralized finance space? Like, any one of you guys can go ahead with it.
Yeah. maybe I'll start.
Great.
Yeah, I think the difference between decentralized finance and finance, the core difference is basically trust. Like you are in centralized finance, you are basically trusting the company which you are dealing with to handle your assets or cryptocurrencies and so on. While in case of a decentralized finance, you are basically dealing with smart contracts and your ability to actually verify the smart contracts and your ability to trust a specific smart contract. So I guess that's the core difference between both the different finance like platforms.
Yep, agree. And I think for me is also efficiencies, right? If you talk about DeFi right now, I think you can pretty much interact with it in almost an unconditional way, right? You can interact with a smart contract regardless of who you are, where you are. There's no limit amount. There's no delay withdrawal. There's no KYC and whatnot, right? And those are the things that you have to deal with. If you're going to CFI, you need to do KYC. You need to wait until the companies allow you to withdraw your money. Right. So essentially, it also increases your capital efficiencies in the way you interact with a lot of these products, I think.
Interesting. What's your take, Sandeep?
Yeah, so like primary difference I would say is that in a pure DeFi, your funds, the custody of your funds would essentially be with a smart contract, right? Or preferably although like there's nothing fully perfect, or completely decentralized. There's a spectrum, but like a larger there'll be a large level of decentralization onto who controls your funds and how are the decisions being made in the system. Like for example, let's take an example of MakerDAO, who issues DAI, right? So if you want to add one more asset which can become like a kind of collateral in issuing DAI, you have to go through a governance process where token holders vote on it and things like that. Compare that to a CFI, wherein like a kind of a centralized like a crypto exchange or lending borrowing provider can be there, and they can take like much faster decisions, but then centralized decisions as per their this thing, and your funds are primarily also in their custody. So if something happens to the centralized provider, then you might also get hit with that. Although that's true for DeFi also, we have seen many instances where the smart contracts which have been kind of managing the user funds, they got hacked or things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, by and large, the control of the funds as well as how the decisions in the systems are made, these two things basically primarily differentiate between DeFi and CeFi.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, Sandeep. And there are degrees of decentralization, like you rightly pointed out, and even DeFi protocols, you're at the mercy of the person who's written the protocol. My question is a follow-up to what you just said, and it's open to all the three speakers here. The question is, if what is limiting decentralization on DeFi protocols? And is it a lack of developers and having a large enough community to have that mind kind of decentralized into enough parts, or are there other reasons? So how does DeFi get towards the other end of the spectrum of being truly decentralized, and what are the things stopping it from getting it?
Sure. So yeah, let me start on that. So basically, see, one of the biggest reasons right now is, I would simply say, is time. Like it's been like DeFi markets and DeFi protocols are still very, very new. And most of the things are still being, most of the building blocks or Legos are still being figured out, right? So like we also have Soravis here. So, oracles, for example, there have been previously scenarios where, teams were not using, good quality oracles. And that's where I think, products like Band Protocol come into picture, which are more decentralized and sort of like the price feeds and all that coming into the system for many of these DeFi protocols, which rely on these external price feeds, right? They become more reliable and kind of become more fault prone. Then also one more thing is like on the Oracle side, there are multiple things, multiple projects, like Chainlink is of course one of the biggest ones over there, and then there are multiple others coming up. So Apart from that, in terms of the building blocks, the smart contracts also security, kind of creates a lot of issues many of the times, because smart contract building patterns, are still, there are many things that needs to be like kind of improved. Plus, since smart contracts have a sort of a Turing completeness, so that means that the number of scenarios are like endless. So there's a very high possibility of finding some sort of bugs here and there, which can at times become fatal. And so apart from this, so external sources, smart contract security, these two kind of things are more important over there. Then also the scalability also plays a role in that. So we all know that the Black Thursday event that happened around the Corona kind of dump, at that time Ethereum became choked, right? So even if you had all the money, even projects like Compound, right, where you had all the things in place, secure smart contract and all that, but the Ethereum network got choked, and due to that, it kind of exposed a few scenarios which the protocol had not anticipated, and then there were liquidations and things like that, and again people lost funds. So I think these few things, and then of course, as I first thing I said, the time the community needs to grow and all that. So all of these things are slowly moving into that direction, and it will take some time before you will start seeing like truly decentralized protocols emerging. There are only few like Uniswap like kind of scenarios as of now, which are very minimalistic in nature and all that. So yeah.
Got it. My next question is actually a follow-on to that between Pratik and Soravis. This section is about DeFi and CeFi. And I think in every conversation that we've had till now, in this meetup alone, user experience has been the biggest issue. And one way or the other, the experience on centralized, solutions is just better as opposed to decentralized solutions. Now, and as leaders in this space, in some way kind of empowering the middle layer or the layer zero, as Pratik is working on. How would you say, how far is the bridge? How far do we have to go from seeing CeFi level experience on DeFi products?
Right. I think for me, right, as Sandeep mentioned as well, a lot of people are working on a lot of these scalability issues, right, including Matic, including new other layer one as well. And I think I'm actually quite bullish that just in the next few months we're going to see more scalable solution to hit the market to help, whether that be Matic on layer 2, whether that be new type of DeFi that require more scalabilities like perpetual swap trading, on Solana, right? Things like that are being built. A lot of these derivative and synthetic tokens are being built on Cosmos, Polkadot, across different layer one blockchain. So I think we'll see much faster, experience on that fairly soon, as we see a lot of these new, developers and projects popping up. And I think, again, I don't think both of them are competing for the same type of people, to be honest. I feel that for CeFi, it's actually targeted more toward the mass and retail, right? At least for the moment. And I do think that it has merit, right? People sometimes don't want to interact with smart contract directly. They don't have, just the fact that they have to pay for a lot of gas fee just doesn't make any sense for a lot of their positions, right? As opposed to putting their money in Binance and do the trading, right? But a lot of this CeFi is breaching the gap themselves. So if you look at Binance, for example, Binance is also providing DeFi staking. They also provide yield farmings and other experience that users don't have to directly interact with smart contract, but they can directly interact with the front end that they are quite familiar with. They can forget their password and they can still use blockchain, right? So I think that's what's going to happen over the next few months as well.
I think from the UI perspective, we also have different aspects like the responsiveness of UI and all these things also not as good as the CeFi, and I think there are multiple reasons for that as well. Along with what Soraris said, we also have the networking itself, like the load times and all of the, like let's say if you take the Uniswap page, I think not as a critic, but I think it takes a significant time to do that. But that is definitely expected because you are querying blockchain data and you have to you have to reach out to the actual full node to actually get these things, and you can't run it everywhere because these are pretty heavy stuff, right? Like, I mean, you need like significant resources to actually run these things. So I think from that perspective as well. So, like you generally use Infura and things like that. We are also actually working on something like called a Marlin cache, basically, which is caching, like a low resource caching infrastructure around the world, from which users can actually get the data pretty fast. So I think something on that lines will also help. I think these all things will take time because these are sort of like, there are replicas in traditional systems as well for these things, but they took years to like reach where they are now. And yeah, I think the same thing is going to happen with decentralized applications as well, and eventually we'll see that the responses are as good as the like centralized platforms.
Got it.
Interesting. Let's move on to our next question, guys. So I'll just share my screen. India's potential in emerging as one of the most technologically advanced financial markets in the world. So, like all of you guys, like Matic, Ankr, Band, Marlin, all of you guys have, been a part of a space where India does play a significant role. Like India does have the potential to disrupt a couple of things, a couple of countries who are competing against us or with us. And what do you guys think? What's India's potential like as emerging as one of the big markets in the financial space? What are your thoughts? Why do you guys think you should bet on India basically?
May I start?
Yeah, Ryan.
Guys, I was having some connection issues. I think I haven't introduced myself. I am the co-founder of Ankr, and I've actually been to India 3 times now. It's one of the most vibrant, country and most exciting country, I've ever been. I'm obviously a big fan of Indian food and everything. I think, the sheer amount of people and population, determine that India is going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, potential market for a more advanced, financial infrastructure, right? And I think, today's topic is obviously DeFi. I think, given the fact that there are so many people having so different, background and culture in India, from my understanding, that is a huge potential for decentralized finance, right? Being someone who been really enjoyed traveling, in different places, of the world, one big definition of DeFi, or one big sort of defining aspect of DeFi, is that it is universal, right? Anyone from any culture, any religion, speaking any language, really, with any currency, can work together. Right, and from my very shallow understanding of India, is that a couple of years ago it just went through like a whole reform of the currency. I might sound like really dumb, by commenting on my understanding of India, but you see, DeFi gives people a great, interesting alternative that is transparent, that is open to everyone. The fact that there are so many people, and the fact that it is such a diverse country with so much different culture and background, and such a big country as well, right? I think that's why it has a tremendous future.
Great. Yeah, that does make sense. And we had demonetization basically. So 1,000 rupee and 500 rupee notes were just like no longer valid. So that's what had happened.
Yeah. So Sandeep, I want to have two kind of slightly different takes than before. So I would say two. First is that let's divide the DeFi market into 2 kinds of sections. For India. So one is people building DeFi applications for the whole world, right? And then second, people adopting DeFi applications. I think the first one is already being seen. There are quite a few projects from in DeFi. We have InstantApp, one of the bigger DeFi players. We have Frontier Wallet recently launched, listed the token and all that. globally, one of the bigger kind of players in that. We have Nuo Network, who has raised like A-list, this thing from A-listed investors in Silicon Valley. So in terms of builders, and then we see like there will be a lot of builders from India, I think, building for Globe. But I think locally, Indian governments, the second part that people adopting it because of the government's stance on a lot of things. Like I think even now we have payments, in cryptocurrency is illegal, right? So you can own the assets, you can have them as an asset, but you can't make payments with that. So that is one area of concern, and I don't see Indian governments to be moving very fast on that. Like as far as I see the overall scenario. So when the basic financial these things like payments and all that are not going to come, I'm trying to figure out that how they are going to come up with a scenario wherein or kind of regulation which allows the DeFi, decentralized finance related things, but yet be able to curb what they want to curb. Because India is coming out from a really long period of black markets and people not disclosing their transactions and doing transactions in cash and things like that. And government, in the last 10-15 years implemented, and Simran was mentioning about the demonetization, all that. All those measures were put in so that some of these black market elements, like or the gray market elements, can be curbed, and large economy can come onto the kind of more regulated form. And I think we came from that part, and then today we are here. In terms of our payments, also our payment infrastructure, if you see globally, in terms of the entire globe, we would be the one of the most advanced nations in that, in terms of our payment infrastructure. Like similar thing can also be seen from the telecom industry, like in terms of our internet speeds and all that, especially in the metros, are like much better than what you can experience in US and all. Why? Because we are leapfrogging from a 20-year, 30-year-old legacy system to the systems which are new today, right? And then in the financial systems also, with UPI and all that, we are like fairly advanced globally. Now, I think that the current government is going to consolidate over here. Like, we are not going to move. Like, I feel that the move to the pure crypto or decentralized kind of finance things would be slightly slow, because we are like, government thinks that okay, UPI is there, we have a lot of these systems. Why would you? We all know that Mr. Subhash Garg, who was earlier the chairman of that committee, he still thinks that when you have UPI and all that, why do you need Bitcoin payments and all that? Because they're thinking that it's about the fastness of the payment, or it's about the these digital aspects of it. But it's not about that, although they don't understand that. So that's why I'm saying that we leapfrog from a very old system to this new system, and then making a change from here, which government thinks that is good enough, to a new system completely, and especially with the background of black markets and all that. I think it will be slow compared to the Western industries, where their financial systems are fairly like old now, and then they are ripe for disruption. So I think many Western countries will be much faster in that sense. But in terms of the builders, I think we'll see a lot of people building from here. Yeah, that's my stance.
Great. Anyone wants to add something to it? Raghu, Prateek, Travis?
I don't want to add to it. I want to actually challenge Sandeep on one more thing, though. Sandeep, Prateek, and mainly this is towards people who are a little more familiar with the Indian financial setup. It actually is quite well done.
Really?
And
said the same. Like we are fairly advanced in that, and making a change from this advanced stage would be Go ahead, what you were saying.
Yeah, my question was, assuming that the government has a pro-crypto stance, let's take that as a given. And my question would be that in that scenario also, do you see what are the areas that you expect India to take up? Let's take loans, for example, right? Do you see the Indian generic retail community, the guys who are actually going after personal loan, a car loan, a home loan, and those type of guys using DeFi instead of what already exists? Because I think what exists is a fantastic and very robust system. And what are the leapfrogs that DeFi can provide?
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, actually, what you are saying is absolutely what I was also saying, that we already have a fairly advanced system in terms of financial markets. The benefits that DeFi offers, more on the decentralization, on the decentralization level, lack of institutional kind of confidence. Those are the things which are the benefits of DeFi. Like speed and all these things are not really the benefits of DeFi. But yes, there are teams like DeFi, for example, they want to use DeFi with like kind of trust score and some sort of regulated KYC and things like that, and then they want to kind of have these micro lending scenarios or non-collateralized lending scenarios, with which they will have to create something like a DeFi plus CeFi system, right? Somebody has to do their credit evaluation and all that. I think that could be a mid path for for some foreseeable future, like next 2, 3, 4 years. I think that would be the thing that you will see more, like DeFi plus regulation and CeFi together. Some of the adoption coming in. But then I think till the time government doesn't adopt like when I'm saying about the growth, I'm talking about like the huge exponential growth where trillions of dollars from Indian economy starts coming into DeFi, or not even till like maybe billions of dollars. I think that will require a lot of like removal of this social stigmatism and all that. Like for yours and mine, like dads and all that, they will sort of never I think touch DeFi for quite some time, right? So that's why, because the government has created that kind of environment, like fear kind of environment around that. So that's the reason. Yeah.
And also,
I see Prateek trying to say something. Prateek, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think, India has a pretty advanced system, but then there are certain sections of the community and certain areas which are not actually covered with the current system. Like I'm not sure if you know this. I think it's pretty common in India that you have loans of very few amounts, like 500, less than 1,000 rupees, which bank cannot process because of the processes involved. The costs are too high than probably the loan itself. So it won't be easy for them to do that. But then, given a pro DeFi stance of government, I think the costs of such transactions can be brought down, and it can be like, though we have a very good system, but it can be an alternative system for certain areas of the community which are not serviced by the current financial system, I guess. And I guess remittances and all these things are like I guess those are some things which are in between, because government might not want to allow that, but then those are something which crypto basically helps, right?
Yeah, I actually wanted to add something, if possible. So I think, right now, this is just my personal observation, and I could be completely wrong here. I think largely right now, the whole DeFi thing, obviously, a lot of DeFi stuff is happening on Ethereum. I think the network is still relatively expensive and sometimes a bit slow. In fact, I think Matic obviously is also working on that, and helping people to sort of speed up their experience, right? And the price action of certain things is probably not entirely clear in a lot of blockchains, right? Where I believe obviously Band is an important part, a big solution, to that. I think what I would assume is that right now, I would say the adoption of DeFi in India probably is not the best because of the relative hardness or difficulty to utilize it, as well as the high expense and slow speed, of the Ethereum. Now, I think with companies like Matic, obviously company like Ankr also, trying to help with a better infrastructure, for people to easier to set up infrastructure. I think as the actual product of DeFi keeps improving, I think, it's going to be easier and easier for people in India to access it, right? I think, quite frankly, I think the per capita, spending from users on India, might be relatively lower compared to, let's say, the United States, right? So people will be, this is once again just my assumption, right? Like I believe people might be a little bit more price sensitive on, let's say, if you use Curve, right? That's going to cost you like $150 or like $200, right? Which could be, quite high of a barrier, right? And it is exciting to see companies, working on solutions to make that barrier lower. And I believe that can definitely bring a lot of people from India, to the DeFi ecosystem.
Interesting. All right. If no one wants to add anything, we'll move on to our next question. Which is DeFi's future scope in India. So basically, I would want us to discuss about this more. Like, like right now when we talk about DeFi, this is something we're talking about for the future, something that companies right now are building, but is going to be used in the future from like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Like we are in the phase where we are building Facebook, we're building Google, we're building all the big fives that were there. So we are in that nascent stage right now. But what do you guys think it's going to be like when we mature, when the entire space matures? What's the scope like? What people can do with it? What DeFi is going to change, and how people talk about DeFi is going to change. Like, for example, right now we, like a very small community in the space, actually understand decentralized finance, and we choose to opt for decentralized finance. But what is going to be in the future if decentralized finance goes mainstream and people actually use it? What's going to be like? What do you guys think? This is something that is totally open ended. We can just keep a very futuristic overview of this.
Yeah, maybe I can start first. This is obviously a topic I'm personally very interested and excited about. I'm gonna actually shield Ben a little bit. I think it's important because I think in the future, DeFi is going to be connecting more sort of off-chain stuff to the on-chain stuff, right? Like right now, if you think about it, whether it's Compound, whether it's Curve, whether it's Arve, let's say, right? A lot of things is very crypto native, right? Why crypto native stuff come out first? Because quite obviously, stuff that's within crypto is easier to be dealt with, in crypto, right? So there are not too much information that is outside of crypto, to be feeding into crypto, right? I think, oracles are very important channel, to make that potential, into reality. If we don't have a mechanism that is connecting, the outside world, into the crypto world, the crypto world can only be a close-ended, sort of environment, right? And I think, also, I'm going to show Matic a little bit. I think the speed is obviously very important, right? So, well, how I think about the future is that the DeFi applications are going to be more widespread, into different functionalities into our life, not just crypto native function, and the usability as well as the user experience of the DeFi applications are going to be, closer, when it compared to a centralized, alternative, right? Right now, I believe we're at a stage that I think people are seeing the benefits of DeFi, right? It is more international, it is more, there's more privacy, your money is your money, right? But right now the barrier is still high, right? But I think in the future, when the other barrier of the DeFi and accessibility, of the crypto to the real world is easier and smoother, people will feel more sort of attracted to DeFi. Yeah.
Great. Like, Raghu, you want to add something to it?
I don't want to add. I want to kind of add to the question that you put on there. I mean, honestly, I'm not building anything in DeFi, so I don't think I should add anything to it. But the question is that, okay, I think to a large extent the sentiment is kind of going towards, we will see great products first and then maybe a use case for DeFi at some amount of time. But when you start peeling the onion of the Indian developer ecosystem, you start to realize that very few people are interested in blockchain, and even few among them are interested in DeFi. That few is also a very large number, so that's why we have potential in India. But Do you see that in Summit limiting the kind of products that come out? And also, India has a very Me Too mindset. And that's because we are building products for markets that already have need for something like this. So with those two things factored in, and full support from the government towards crypto and DeFi, what are the kind of products that you are that you see gaining a lot of traction? And do you think that that may be to the detriment of us because somebody is building those products in the beginning and has more insight into the problem that they're solving? That's open to everybody here.
No, just going to do a quick comment here. Obviously, I'm not deep into the Indian ecosystem like the other two, but our investors also include a lot of Indian VC, including Woodstock, including Sequoia, which has like a global reach. So we actually do get a lot of deals. Get a lot of I guess requests from a lot of these investors to talk to projects from India. Even request to hire developers in India because there's a lot of talent there with you guys. So I think from our perspective, at least as an Oracle, like Ryan said, most if not all DeFi will require Oracle usages. So that's why we have a good opportunities to talk to a lot of these projects, different projects around the world, and we're seeing a number of them coming from India, ranging from decentralized exchanges to a derivative, to perpetual swap, to a lot of these new DeFi projects. So I think I'm actually quite bullish on the DeFi ecosystem in India, including the talent there. We are actually looking to hire some local talent there as well. So that's something that we've been focusing on.
That's actually really good to know, Saravis. Could you go a little deeper into maybe the kind of people that you're most excited about, and are you finding them in numbers in India?
Right. So yeah. So our investor actually connect us to some of the really talented team locally, and we try to outsource some of the integration work for them, and the result so far has been good. I guess right now we're in a phase where we try to scale our team, and to do it locally only is really challenging, right? And as you are aware, I mean, blockchain developers are really small in numbers. It's really difficult to find really good talent, and that's why we start to look elsewhere. And Vietnam and India clearly become one of our big targets.
Well, given that it's Corona and everyone works from home, you only have.
That's right. It doesn't make any difference. That's right. And the nature of us is, we work with a lot of projects around the world anyways. So, it doesn't matter where you work. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I think coming more along the, coming more back to the initial question, the fact that we are building products for somebody else's problems, do you see that affecting our products, the products that come out of India, or do you think that gives us an edge in some way?
Go ahead.
Right. I guess for me, just a quick comment. I don't think that especially when we talk about DeFi or decentralized solution, I don't think we're particularly capped toward one particular country. Obviously, everyone built for global communities, right? Like Neo, for example, like Matic, for example, right? So I mean, I don't think it's particularly constrained to any one particular country. Sure, regulation play an important role. Local, corporate. Also play an important role as well. So I guess Sandy can comment more on that. But at least for me, at least, we're in Bangkok. The Thai corporate, like the big banks, are really into DeFi now. A lot of them are jumping into crypto exchange business. A lot of them are jumping into actually, working directly in DeFi. So
that's awesome. Actually, that was the answer that I was looking for. That the crypto ecosystem necessarily isn't restricted to one country, and it's like this one large hive mind. And it doesn't matter.
And solutions are also like not very country dependent. Like that's the whole premise of crypto, right? So Bitcoin is like country agnostic, people agnostic. Who is using it, who is not using it, doesn't care about that, right? So it's the same for overall this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, could we define that though? Like, what is the crypto ecosystem? This is typical taking a page out of Nischal's talk. Marketing is driven by knowing your audience, and if you have an audience in mind, you write a persona for it, right? So, what is the crypto ecosystem? Who are they? primarily, and what are the things that define them? What do they care about? If we could have each one on this panel kind of define that for us, that actually opens up a lot more possibilities and helps product builders decide what to build and for whom. So Ryan, if you want to go first, and then we could go to Suravis, Pratik, and then Sandeep. Guys, can you hear me?
I think Ryan, you're on mute.
Well, you snooze, you lose. Suravis, you want to go first?
Okay, now he got cut off. Can you repeat? Oh, he's back.
No, I think I lost connection a little bit.
Yeah, did you get the question?
Yeah, could you?
Yeah, so I was asking about country-specific approaches to building crypto products, and I think the general consensus is that crypto as an ecosystem isn't limited to one country. Actually, those problems are very similar, and it's not limited to, say, in India or Korea or China or anywhere. So, assuming that this community is one, this question is an attempt to define that community. Who is the crypto community? What do they care about? And what are the problems that they face? And I feel like answering that question will allow product builders, will give product builders a better idea about what to do.
Yeah, totally. I think, I completely agree with, what you just said. I think, crypto by definition is borderless, is countryless, is cultureless, right? And, it solves, universal problems, I would say, right? And let's say Bitcoin obviously have a universal appeal, the concept of your money is your money, right? Nobody can take away, right? Those are all universal concepts and universal challenges and problems. I think, that being, and I think this idea is already widely, accepted, in the crypto space and by successful crypto companies, right? Especially let's say in DeFi, I think, whether it's say like a Compound, whether it's Chainlink, right, Band, people don't, I think the communities are all very global. People don't really, they're all solving global problems. But I definitely see, niche local challenges, right? I would say, once again, I probably don't know, I probably know India a lot. I don't know as much as, some other panelists do, but I'm sure there are, more localized, issue and challenges that crypto blockchain can solve. That is, more applicable in India than any other places. I think, crypto, in fact, also give opportunity for builders around the globe to solve, let's say, localized problems, right? Let's say, for example, I happen to have chance to understand one major issue, that is widespread in India, right? With crypto, even if I'm not in India, potentially, there's an opportunity, for me to help solve it, right? And in fact, that's one of the things that Ankr is trying to do. Ankr has a India community as well. We hope to, we believe that setting up nodes, getting the infrastructure up for blockchain hosting is a universal problem, and I totally see that as a challenge for a lot of people, in India to get into the crypto space. That's why we also work closely with the Matic guys. Arguably, I believe one of the most, if not the most, popular crypto project in India, right? So yeah, I think crypto is a two-way street. How it gives people the tool across the globe to solve local problems and give the local developers tools to solve global problems.
Got it. Also, in the interest of time, if we could just keep it to short answers about describing the crypto persona, that would be good. But Brian, great answer. I really like that and provided a counter view to what we were discussing so far. So, Suravis, you want to go next?
Sure. I think the spirit of crypto is always about decentralization, right? About this censorship resistant. And I think that's really important things to keep in mind. Whatever you build, whether that be DeFi or financial tools, increase efficiencies, reduce trust. And I think that's the most important thing, right? And people are building that, not just, and I mean, if you look beyond DeFi, because I think people talk about DeFi a lot, right? There are more solutions that we need. For example, censorship resistant social media, right? You see a lot, you start to see a lot of these giants having a lot of control over the users, a lot of power, right? To censor people, to, motivate people or even steer people toward one, direction, right? And that's a really, really powerful thing. That's something that, for example, in Thailand, the government has been suppressing people on their, quite a lot. And that's why we truly need more, I guess, censorship resistant from the authorities, whether that be, new financial tools or social media or, gaming, whatever. I think that's the key thing for the builders to pay attention to right now.
Got it. Prateek?
Yeah, I do think that the application, the user persona should be global and it's not like local. But then again, there are specific scenarios which happen a lot in, like, there are specific set of people who are more in a specific country, and the persona, like even the user personas are multiple, right? I mean, it's not this very single, like each user might have their own needs, and there are certain aspects which are more important to a specific set of people, and those people can be region specific. So I mean, the features can be, so basically you can sort of prioritize features based on that, but I think the features in general should be global. But I guess based on which market you are basically targeting, you can decide on which like what's the priority of your feature set, I guess. So
Got it. And Sandeep?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I will your primary question, Raghu, was that what is the kind of persona of a DeFi user for which the developer should build, right? So, to be honest, like from my side, till the time some sort of identity solutions and credit worthiness kind of solutions come in, till that time, I think there is only one persona in the current DeFi space, like no matter how big it is currently, and it's the persona of a speculator, right? So even like for any lending, borrowing protocol, at the end, the people who are buying or kind of taking or borrowing the money from these lending protocols are primarily the people who want to long one particular token. For example, people who want to long ETH, but then they want their capital, like some sort of their capital, some part of their capital to be out, and so that they can speculate on other things or maybe use it for trading or whatnot. So till now, like the most of the journey of the, after that, we all know the liquidity farming, which is like purely speculative. So I think to really get like real use cases of DeFi, I think people should build for like the user personas which would exist in real world, right? Where people, like a needful person actually wants to buy or wants to get some loan, which will include having some sort of identity. Bright ID is doing really well on that, and some sort of like credit scoring on chain in some form. So I think those two, that is one of the key areas. Second area is like still on the dexes, although Uniswap has become what Uniswap it is. But if you see the whole AMM kind of formula, I still feel that this is like a stopgap arrangement, because the real demand supply books kind of exchanges can't be built on top of blockchains in a decentralized way. And I think now with solutions like Matic, with solutions like Starkware being there, Loopring being there, people are trying to build these centralized exchange experience, almost equivalent to that experience kind of dexes also. So I think that even on the dexes side of things, there is still a lot of scope. Although the market feels like there's Uniswap, there is like on the centralized exchange side, there are like Binance and Coinbase of the world and all that. But I think on the dexes side, there is still quite a lot of space. And then as I already said, that the use cases which can model the real world financial products onto the blockchain, that could be that should be the kind of persona you should build out. And when I said DEX, I mean to include the futures and derivative, kind of trading these things also. So yeah.
Great. Great. Guys, we are almost there, so I think we can wrap up this session if it's okay by you guys. Great. Sandeep, Raghu, Prateek, Soravis, Ryan, thank you so much, guys. You guys were great. I'm sure our audience got some really crazy insights. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Right, sure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everyone.
We're back with the next session. So let's fasten our geek goggles because our next session is with Google. Let's welcome Devin Mishram. He's a cloud engineer with Google. And Devin is here to present a live workshop around setting up a Binance Smart Chain node. Over to you, Devin. Thank you so much for coming here with us.
Hey, great. Thanks so much, Simran, and great to virtually see everybody here. Hope everyone's doing well. As Simran mentioned, I'm a cloud engineer at Google Cloud. And what that means is I work directly with customers that use Google Cloud to build their business. And what this means in this context is our customers use us for our infrastructure, our storage, maybe building data pipelines, and really find value in some of the tools that we offer. So this topic today is really fascinating. What I'd like to do today is speak more maybe from a technical level and share a bit about infrastructure and how to think about using this infrastructure as a developer. Okay, and so what I have is I have a couple slides. I'll make sure. Can everybody see my screen? I'll shrink myself.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so I've about 30 minutes, and unfortunately I have a hard stop. I'm in Singapore, and I have to run upstairs for dinner. But I'm speaking on behalf of a couple of folks on my team, Alan Day, also here in Singapore, and my colleague Dan Clements. If you want to get in touch, there's my Twitter contact. Alan is one of our experts when it comes to the blockchain space. That's his Twitter account. And then for Dan, there's his email. So what we'll do today is really, I'll spend about 30 minutes going pretty quickly, but I want to, again, kind of drive through some technical goals. And a bit of background, 2 years ago, I worked with Alan and really helped on this public data initiative that we have, where we run blockchain nodes that collect Bitcoin, Ethereum, 5 other coins. We run those to capture these blocks and store them into a public data set available by all. And for me personally, when I did this a couple of years ago, similar to a lot of you, I'm sure, on this call, I had to start from scratch, right? How do you run a virtual machine for a blockchain, for a read-only blockchain? How do you capture these blocks? What do you do in terms of the setup, in terms of Linux and setting up your blockchain node and security? And to be frank, even for me, someone who works at Google, this took quite some time to not only understand, but to find really reliable sources online in terms of how to build this infrastructure. Fast forward a bit, I built some of the early virtual machine infrastructure, but then we moved into Kubernetes engine. And I'm not going to get into Kubernetes here, but it's a more it's a larger scale version of what I'm about to show you today. But first off, what is Google? We can, my slides work here. There we go. So again, at Google, we spend most of our time working with companies and helping them accelerate and helping them digital transform and really drive innovation. And I think we could all agree, just through the topics today, that data is really a common form of currency between information networks on blockchains and in the public cloud. And so what does that mean? Well, when customers choose to run on Google Cloud, we have a couple key points that I'd like to highlight, and I'll go through these quickly, but infrastructure modernization is a big theme that we see a lot. We also see data management and analytics. This is dealing with large volumes of data, big data in classical terms, and forming those big data shapes and big data pipelines and pushing those into more intelligent systems such as machine learning or AI or other systems that might want draw intelligence off of that data. And last but not least, and there's a hackathon, and it's also about developers, right? We want to provide tools to really help build and connect and modernize the life of a developer, right? And again, I'm coming from the cloud side here, but we see a lot of similar patterns when it comes to the cloud and for firms that are building blockchain businesses that might need to use cloud tools on occasion. Okay, so let me give another chunk of background here. So you can Google this term, Ethereum, and Google's BigQuery. But this is an article we came out with about 2 years ago from Alan Day. And it talked about, again, how we capture blockchain data and make it available to anyone on our public data set program. If you're super technical, you can read through this to learn about the design patterns, why this is useful. But in short, if you know just a little bit about data, SQL is a common markup language for querying data in relational databases. This tool, BigQuery, lets you use SQL to actually query blockchain data. And I'm not sure how many folks on this call have actually opened up a blockchain node. I do have a demo at the end of this call if we do have time. But blockchains can be quite challenging, right? It is a database, but they come in different flavors. A popular one is called Level Database. But having the ability to query blockchain data is quite powerful, especially for teams maybe in your startup that might not be so technical or geared in terms of sleuthing through blockchain data. You can imagine you might have a partnerships team, or you might have a business team trying to drive insights or user behavior in terms of your blockchains. That's where these tools come in quite handy. So another thing, we have a lab which is available. You can go to this website that you see below, explorecrypto.page.link/Binance. And that's just a link I made today, which is a tutorial, a web-based tutorial, and it's free. You just sign in. And we give you a step-by-step of how to query our public data set program. And we think this is just a great experience for anyone, again, interested in crypto and interested in the analysis aspect of crypto. There's some fun exercises in there in terms of the $10 Bitcoin pizza and some other tales of yore, where, again, you can dig through this public data and find some interesting patterns, when it comes to crypto behaviors over the past 10 years. Okay, so for today, I'm going to talk about the technicals, okay, and appreciate the Binance team for inviting me on this call. I spent the past couple days going through Binance's website and really reading about the Smart Chain protocol, also Binance Chain, and reading about the history of how Smart Chain and Binance Chain came to be. And this is a bit of experience from my own experience running Ethereum nodes and Bitcoin nodes. In terms of what you can expect here in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about test nets and main nets. I'm going to talk about design patterns of how you can plan for these smart chains as a developer, how to build a smart chain node on Google Cloud. I'm going to walk through some step-by-steps. And then lastly, with time, I'll do a quick demo in terms of how to securely connect to your new Binance Smart Chain testnet. Okay, but first off, what is Binance Chain? What is Binance Smart Chain? I mean, I think everyone here on the call knows, but today I'm just going to focus here on Binance Smart Chain. Now, what is testnet? What is mainnet? You can think of mainnet as production. That is the public blockchain that has real money, real tokens, real assets, real non-fungible assets, etc. Testnet, different concept. In the Ethereum world, you have different test nets called Kovan, Wrinkleby. I live in Singapore. Kovan, fun fact, it's named after a train station here in Singapore. But it's important to note the difference between these two. And the big takeaway from this slide is, if you're a developer, start with the testnet. Okay. Once you test out your code, you do your dev, your prod, your QA, unit testing, all that fun stuff. Then you should probably start to consider the mainnet. Now, interacting with them, here's the easy part. They're actually both the same. Okay, a mainnet and a testnet, for the most part, are one and the same. Okay, when it comes to Binance Smart Chain, you can follow that link there to learn about Binance Smart Chain and how to interact with that using the wallet. Or number two, which I'll talk about today, is how do you build a testnet node on Google Cloud and run that. Now, the great thing is, if you're a Google Cloud customer, excellent. If not, that's fine. If you go to this link, you can see how to set up any Linux server to run your own testnet. Okay, so this applies anywhere. But I'm just going to highlight some of the features unique to Google Cloud. Now, first off, a mainnet. Very quickly, you have your blockchain, your main mainnet, okay? And a blockchain, again, is just a global network of nodes that might know about one another or might not know about one another, okay? And it's also users that have wallets that might perform transactions on these networks, okay? Now, when you build your node and connect to the main net of a given blockchain, that could be Binance Smart Chain, your node will receive these blocks every couple seconds, just coming out of the ether, coming out from this web of P2P connected nodes running this blockchain. Same for testnet. Again, you just bring up your testnet node, every few seconds, you have a fresh new block coming in. Now, what is the bigger picture here? So we like to think in terms of this pattern. I mean, it's great to build blockchain, but you're probably starting businesses, you want to build a product that your users love, right? So blockchain is part of the battle. Another key component to think of is once you capture that blockchain data, how do you aggregate that data? How do you store that data? How do you maybe analyze that data to provide insights into your users? You know, what collectibles are being purchased, or you know, what are some trends on the blockchain as of the past 4 or 5 blocks? And so that's where the cloud comes in. And I'm not going to go too deep on this in today's talk, but on the bottom here you can see typical values, right? So by capturing the blockchain, by running your own node, you can really have high-speed reads and writes. You know, running your own node, you can move pretty quick and develop pretty fast on a blockchain. And by aggregating a blockchain yourself, you can do data engineering. Okay, and by having a database connected to your blockchain node, you can do data science. You can do SQL queries. You can do graph queries, which are super interesting when it comes to blockchains in terms of relationships. And of course, you can develop, and that's where building apps come in, right? In terms of building your front ends. Now, bringing that in, what does that mean? So again, you have your private nodes. You have your raw block data coming in. You might have databases running on the cloud, transaction databases like SQL, or you might have key value databases like Redis. If anyone here is a big data science fan, you might have a Jupyter Lab notebook that might talk to these databases, right? And then this can feed also nice endpoints when it comes to your UI that might live on the classic web or feed ML systems that you might be building. Okay, but there's a lot of exciting work here. Way much more than today's session, but just want to inspire some ideas for this hackathon. Now, what's possible when you run a node? Okay, I've got 3 components here, but at the highest level, if you're maybe just starting a business and haven't quite ventured down the rabbit hole of blockchain, at the end of the day, you probably need a website. Okay, you probably want a front end for your distributed app. You might want to read and write to the blockchain, and you might want to do some big data, run some big business intelligence, maybe some predictive work, etc. How would you do that? You'd build a system, right? And you would have some mix of these components, right? You would have your front end written in either React or maybe Node. You might have your testnet nodes, again, where you're testing your app. You might also have real-time pipelines, okay? And you might have a data warehouse, and again, you might have machine learning systems. So how would you build this, at least in our case, on GCP? Where you can use these tools. And these are just a sample, but just an idea to spur some thoughts and creativity. But you can use our App Engine product to host a container running Node, for instance. You could run our virtual machines to run your private testnet nodes. If you feel more adventurous, you could run Kubernetes engine, which scales containers at whatever preference you want, and gives you the machines and automation you need to run your testnets at scale. You want to scale them up or scale them out. This is also interesting. We have a product, Google Cloud Anthos, which lets you run Kubernetes in on-prem data centers. And this is also an interesting area where you can have cloud and off cloud. Secondly, for real-time pipelines, how do you build a system that captures every Binance Smart Chain block as they come out every 3 seconds? How can you pump those blocks out every 3 seconds to a streaming cloud fabric? We have tools for that in message queues. We have Cloud Data Flow and Cloud PubSub, which underpin popular tools like Gmail, Google Search, and all the products on the Google side of the business. If you have data science teams, we have BigQuery, we have Data Studio. Data Studio is a free visualization tool that can talk to this BigQuery database. And then getting more advanced, you can have this feed and hydrate ML systems that you might want to build up for predictive analytics, regression analysis, etc. If you dig around on the blog posts that I shared earlier, you can look up some interesting insights on CryptoKitties over time and ML, some interesting use cases. Okay, so how do I get started? So in short, you can build with compute, storage, and networking. Okay, and I'll go through these pretty quickly, but you start with a public blockchain. You want to capture blocks, you want to run an app, and you want to store these blocks. How would you do it? You'd do it by connecting to the public blockchain. You would bring up a Linux node, a virtual machine. You would have your own code running on Google Cloud or elsewhere that connects to that node that you own. And that code would connect to that VM to suck down the blocks as they come in. Okay. And then last but not least, you probably want to store these blocks. So every block that comes in, you keep a copy on an actual hard disk stored in the cloud. Now, in terms of the purpose here, the node, again, you can run this as a mainnet or testnet. When it comes to the RPC, these can be the apps that, again, scrape your node for that intel, read from the chain, and maybe even write to the chain if you want a chain that writes to the public blockchain. And then when it comes to disk, remember these are large volumes of data in a blockchain. Binance Smart Chain, I believe, is around 400 gigs when I checked this morning. So you need to think about large space and really think about giving yourself enough room to store the block data and even restore it if you have to, right? If your machine suffers an outage. So you might ask, hey, Devin, so how can I get started? What kind of machine should I purchase, right? In my experience, and also with the Binance Smart Chain documentation, recommend a 4-core CPU and about 15 gigs of RAM. The CPU is good in terms of providing you the computation power you need, especially for that initial chain sync. And then having high RAM is also great because the RAM actually, in some implementations of Geth and Parity and other blockchain software, if you will use RAM to store the state of the blockchain. So putting it together, you would have your node, okay, connected to the public blockchain over a P2P protocol. This node, again, would connect to downstream apps, Python apps, Go apps that you might write in your own cloud that talk to your private node. And then you have your hard disk where you're storing that historical block data. Okay. Now you might ask, okay, well, how do I connect to that node? So one part of what I'll demo today is each of these nodes has a special port on it, an RPC port, where you can connect to your node and issue it very basic commands such as what's your status, how many peers are you connected to, what's the last block you received, etc. That's RPC. And also with the cloud, you can open these ports in RPC to allow really, it's almost that admin level access. So when you're sitting at home and connecting to your node on the cloud, you would use this RPC function for that connectivity. Also good practice of a firewall, right? So by default, lock everything down. These are quite popular ports, but you can place a firewall there to really block access and lock things down to the networks that you need. Okay, so in short, when you have this up and running, this full design pattern on storage, you're capturing blocks every couple seconds, you have disk storage up to 500 gigs, and then you can really go wild in terms of building your business, building scrapers, storing the disk, and looking at insights to find ways to really help your app stand out. In terms of products on Google Cloud, we have Compute Engine. That's what you can use to run our nodes. And for disk, I'd recommend our product Persistent Storage. That is almost a virtual disk where we replicate it on the back end ourselves multiple times. So you can just have one virtual disk, you attach it to your server, and the data remains there persistently. Okay, so again, you run your node on Compute Engine, and you can store all your blocks in a persistent disk. Okay, so here's a step-by-step of how to get started. So first off, you go to Google Cloud's page, you pick your VM, name it, pick a region, and again, you want to focus on that 4 vCPU, 15 gig server, and pick a Linux distro of your choosing. I choose Ubuntu for my demo. Number two, you can enable Cloud Access APIs, and also enable, if you prefer, Google Managed Keys for your servers. And then lastly, make sure you add that persistent disk around 500 gigs. There's a special feature with snapshots where we can automatically snapshot your disk. You can set this up weekly, and that's a good way to just keep a copy of your main node disk in the case of an outage, and you can easily resurrect your node. Or if you want to run multiple nodes, you can resurrect from a single snapshot disk. Last but not least, when it comes to networking, it's helpful to have a network tag. I call mine Binance Chain, but that's for easier firewall rule management. And then click Create when you're done. I won't read all these right here, but these are the steps you can follow once the VM is set up. These are all outlined on the Binance page that you see there. But in short, you can install the SDK on your laptop, you SSH to your node, and you're ready to install. There's some nice to haves here in terms of post VM setup. I'm a big fan of Tmux. You can use Tmux to connect to your server. You can use SSH to jump in and interact with your node, and start it and stop it. You can also use Postman and use Postman to interact with those RPC endpoints. So the final architecture will look something like this. And again, the goal here is a smart chain testnet node. So you would have your VM running, capturing blocks, again, that 4 vCPU Linux box, that Compute Engine instance. You would have a port on P2P. Typically, it's port 30303. You would have your RPC port, and you would have a persistent disk for storage. And then you might ask Devin, well, how can I securely access my node? Well, we have another feature here. If you don't want to run VPN, we have a white paper. You can check that link, but it's called Beyond Corp, and it's a zero trust security model. And in short, the idea is you should be able to connect to your node from anywhere on networks that you do not trust. This will be part of my demo today, but what we're really doing is I'm going to connect from, again, this developer side on RPC. I'm going to connect through this Cloud IAP product that we have, which is free, and that'll connect me into the RPC port virtually. Behind the scenes, and this is my last slide, I promise, this is what's happening. We will go from my laptop here in Singapore, and we will use a HTTPS tunnel and a TCP port forward through that tunnel to connect to the RPC. And with that, I will jump to the demo. So first off, this is my Smart Chain node, and let me hide myself. Okay. This is what a typical, this is what a Binance Smart Chain node looks like, running the testnet. On the right, you can see my disk space. Just for reference, again, I've got close to 500 gigs of storage. On the left side here, this is the command I use to run the node, and on the bottom, I can tail out the logs. But before I do that, I'm going to connect to my chain over my command line from my laptop using this IAP tunnel. Okay, and this will open a local port on my laptop, just like an SSH tunnel you might otherwise do, but it will route that local port straight into my RPC node, into my Binance Chain testnet node. So if I hit that, and if the demo gods are willing, So I'm not running my node. So let's do that. Let's first start our blockchain node. So here we go. I'm going to run this get command. There you go. That starts up the testnet server. And again, this is the blockchain node sitting on my VM that's here in Singapore on Google Cloud. Now that this blockchain node is running, I'm going to reconnect to that node. And again, I'm connecting to that server on port 8545 from my localhost 8545. So if we run this again, there we go. So now it's connected to my node. So you might say, okay, Devin, well, that's great. You know, what can you do here? Well, let me bring up Postman, I'm sure one of our favorite tools. And on Postman, you can download these on Binance. These are all pre-made API calls. But I can call any node that I want, or call the node on my backend over RPC and get a response. And here's the great thing. It's not a firewall. This is something built where only my access is granted based on my user account, my Google Cloud personal account. So this is great if you have a team. You can just share. You just add your team members to the UI on Cloud IAM, and they could have immediate access to the RPC port of your node. There's no firewall to manage, no IP whitelists. You know, if people have rotating IPs, you don't worry about that. It's a bit higher level. Okay, so I'll conclude on this screen here. This is a kind of a quick recap of the demo. But hey, if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to the Binance team. It's been a pleasure talking to everyone here virtually, one way. But if there's any questions, just give us a shout. Here's my contact info, and my colleagues here in Singapore. And with that, I'll pass back over to Simran. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you so much, Devin. It was really nice. It was really great to have you here.
Hey, cheers. Yeah, thanks for the time, and thanks to everyone for dialing in. Hope everyone is well, staying safe, and looking forward to the next event.
Great, perfect. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Hey everyone, we're here. This is Xiaoguang from our team. He's the BD lead at Binance Smart Chain, and today he's just going to deliver a quick speech. He's going to tell us, he's going to give an end note for you guys. So let's just do that. Zhao, are you ready?
Yeah, can you see my screen? I shared my screen.
So you can just present your, yep, perfect. All right.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, really appreciate, first I really appreciate everyone, to stay quite like a long session, right? Almost 3 hours. And also want to take this opportunity, thanks like, Simran and the team, right, to organize these, the whole events. And I also want to take this opportunity to really appreciate our sponsors and, partners, right, to help us to organize today's meetup, and also sponsor a lot of the projects as well, right? So it's absolutely a great opportunity to not only try to understand the DeFi, but also to see how we can help this community to move forward to build a next generation DeFi as well. And also I also want to take this opportunity to really appreciate all the team registered to participate our events as well. And I think I will quickly share some of our latest update for the Binance Smart Chain, and then I also share some of the our strategy on the Binance Smart Chain. Hopefully, we can leave some time for the questions. And actually, I already saw a lot of questions already covered by previous by colleagues Semi and the panel as well, right? So let me quickly give some updates. So firstly, for the Binance Smart Chain, actually is already there for the mainnet about 1 month. And in the first month, we got quite a good attention for the Binance Smart Chain already, right? Especially from the DeFi worlds. And I may not go through these kind of names, but you can see that they are very active DeFi spaces right now. And we also get a quite good, the users or the active addresses there. And so far, we already got 20% transaction volumes. That's the average transaction volumes of the Ethereum. And of course, we get a high performance, and the transaction fee is very cheap in the Binance Smart Chain. And we looking for, we already saw a very good attention from the community as well. And so this is a quick one, right? But I also saw some of the information or questions or even confusion, right, for the Binance Chain and the Binance Smart Chain. Let me also leverage this opportunity to share some of our, the high-level explanation about the Binance Chain and Binance Smart Chain, and also its technology stack as well. So Binance Chain, and it's there about more than 1.5 years, and it's based on the Cosmos and Tendermint, right? It's majorly focusing on the decentralized exchange. And starting from early this year, we were building the Binance Smart Chain, which is the delegated in parallel chain for the smart contract chain. It's also a EVM compatible chain, and we intend to build the cross chain between these two chains as well. So these two chains are running in parallel and try to cater in different use cases for the blockchains. And with that, we work with our partners, very closely to build our infrastructure. So like for example, the BAN protocol, right, provided the first Oracle service on chain, on the Binance Chain, right? And Google Cloud just to give a demo, and I think Ankr also provided the infrastructure for our nodes, right, and also our validators infrastructure as well. So we work with the partners very closely to build the very friendly, the infrastructure or tools to make sure our developed community can very easily build their info. And as we are talking the DeFi, I also want to highlight a little bit. So Binance Smart Chain or Binance Chain, our longer term vision, absolutely, we try to build it's aligned with our Binance vision as well, right? We try to make sure we can improve the freedom of the money, right? So this is our longer term vision, and we want to have this kind of infrastructure, especially from the blockchain, to enable that. So this infrastructure is not just for DeFi, right? It's majorly try to build a more different categories for the fundamental infrastructure to enable the open finance or handle the financial issues there. So with this kind of in this page, you can see that it's not just DeFi, but we also talk about like security related microfinancing. And we're also targeting the gaming and social community, social media related, this kind of the user expansion behaviors as well. And of course, we also work with our partners and developer communities looking for more data analytics as well. So this is a high-level architecture. I hope all the participants can, really get the understanding from the high level. Firstly, actually, the hackathon, the DeFi, the opportunity can handle both, right? It's not necessarily just in the Binance Smart Chain. You can also think about, what kind of the new ideas you can introduce to bridge them, or even like bridge other chains as well. So this is a high level one, right? But to enable this one, and especially for one new chain, it's not just the protocol, right? The important part is you need to get enough liquidity for the Binance for the new chain. And as you know, right, as a new chain, if you want to bootstrap that one, you need to have enough assets. And to get a native assets, it's needed some time. But we do want to make sure we introduce a very good liquidity for our Binance Smart Chain, right? So if you have a chance to follow us in the Binance Smart Chain in the past 1 month, so we do introduce the token canal, right, to try to bring a lot of the different other tokens from other blockchains to the Binance Smart Chain. and vice versa as well, right? So initially we may get like Ethereum, and actually you also see the like other blockchains like ADA, LTC, all from different, even like Polkadot, right, Dot as well. So to get into the Binance Chain, and the vision is we want to make sure we have this kind of easy way to get these kind of the cross-chain assets. For a longer term, strategy for the blockchain like a token canal is try to build a like cross-chain services to enable the cross-chain DeFi. And so far we are leveraging a little bit centralized custodian service to enable that, which is quite similar as the WBTC, this kind of the service there. But we absolutely will work with our partner and community very closely, try to see how can we build cross-chain and trustless services to enable these token canal and bridging all of these different chains. And furthermore, this is not just to try to bring the blockchains, other the tokens or other DeFi from other chain to the Binance Chain, right? So Binance Smart Chain. We also try to do the same for the others, right? You may see another announcements from us as well. We will try to build the bridge from the Binance to bridge the assets to the Ethereum as well. So that will be you will see this kind of announcement very soon. So basically, this token canal is really try to bring bridging all the different blockchains, including the Binance Smart Chain as well. So hopefully, with this kind of the service, so everyone can have that flexibility and also innovation ideas, right, to focusing on the DeFi protocol instead, to focus on this kind of infrastructure. And another critical strategy we try to introduce in the Binance Smart Chain, or even like a Binance Smart Chain's ecosystem, is we try to, I think in the panel discussion we have that some of the panelists already mentioned that, right? So you may already see some of the products we are introduced in the Binance right now. So for example, we have Binance DeFi staking, DeFi pooling, and we also have like launch pool have already initiated in the Binance.com. But it's not necessarily just dedicated or like only limited for the Binance Smart Chain, right? So because we as a whole, from community, from Binance Smart Chain community, and from Binance, right, we really try to see how can we bridging these CeFi and DeFi. The key challenge is, I think, Solivar also mentioned that, right? So a lot of users in the .com or the CeFi space, they may lack of the enough experience to handling the private keys, right? To manage this kind of the quite complex user experience. Is there any possibility to make sure all the users, right, from either they are from the .com, like decentralized, users, or CeFi users, right? They can have this kind of the benefits, right? They can have an easy way, or even like one secure account to access both CeFi and DeFi, these kind of features there. So we want to get that info, hopefully, and that info and that kind of API can make sure all the different DeFi or the CeFi can have a very easy integration platform there. And of course, as a starting point, we are working with the these kind of the areas in the Binance Smart Chain very deeply with our .com infrastructure right now. And so this is one of the areas we are spending huge efforts right now. I believe you will see a lot of the new initiatives from this area. For example, recently you may see some of the protocol initiated from the Binance Chain, right? Binance Smart Chain, for example, like Alpha, like Venice, right? All of these projects are originated from Binance Smart Chain, and they have this kind of integration with the CeFi right now, and try to make sure the CeFi user can get that kind of benefits from the DeFi's, right? So this kind of engagement, you will see more and more from these kind of areas. And of course, we are looking for more innovation from the community as well, right? So if you have any proposal for these kind of areas, you can also, let us know for that. And one more thing I also want to leverage this opportunity to highlight is, and in the past 1 month, right, actually, it's not just one month, right? So even like before our launch, mainnet launch, we have reached a lot of different DeFi, protocols in Ethereum or other networks. So we have a lot of conversation with them, try to see whether they, how the Binance Smart Chain can satisfy their requirements and how they can easily port to the Binance Smart Chain and what kind of the requirements they are looking for, right? So we already engaged with a lot of them and get quite active projects in the Binance Smart Chain right now. And but the interesting part is we also see some areas are quite lack of the enough participants right now. So it's not like fully direction guidance, but it just give a little bit indications, right? So which areas you think have a huge or better opportunities. So give some examples, right? So basically we already have a quite good coverage from traditional DeFi areas, right? For example, money market, stablecoin lending, and we have multiple projects there. Exchange, AMM. I think some of the participants also ask the AMM or this kind of the Uniswap, this kind of project. Yes, we absolutely have a AMM and liquidity mining. These kind of projects already there quite well, and but we do see some of the areas are quite lacking, right? For example, derivatives, insurance, prediction, markets and payments, as Sammy mentioned. So we lack of this kind of the enough projects in that part as well. And we are looking forward to get more. And another important part is, I think we when we start this kind of hackathon, right? So we really try to focusing more on the new original ideas, right? Not just get the idea from the existing protocol, right? So we try to see more new ideas originated from the Binance Smart Chain, originated from our participants. Some of the ideas we mentioned in our request for proposal, for example, the payments, right? The bridge, the like real world assets in the Binance Smart Chain, and of course some NFT cases where we see and more right now. And so all of these areas we are looking for more original innovations happening in the Binance Smart Chain, right? So we are really looking forward to have a deep discussion with all the registered team, and hopefully you can enjoy the the whole experience in the Binance Smart Chain. And we are also looking forward to hearing your feedbacks in these during this kind of the 3 months hackathons. And again, really appreciate your time. And this is our first meetup in this hackathon, and we will keep have this kind of engagement with all of you, and make sure you have enough success in through this kind of the hackathon. Yeah, thanks everyone for that.
Great. Thank you so much, Zhao. It was really nice of you to say such sweet words. If you're up for it, let's just take a couple of Q&As. Like a lot of people have a lot of questions, so we just pick it up.
Sure.
The first one being, let's just pick up this one so that everyone doesn't ask the same question. Difference between Binance Chain and Binance Smart Chain.
Yeah, so that's why I want to use that the diagram, right? So let me share that one again. Make sure everyone aware that, because I got this kind of question quite a lot. Yeah, so give me a second. So Binance Smart Chain, Binance Chain is a like a tenement-based blockchain, right? Which is which is focused on the decentralized exchange. It's order book based decentralized exchange, and everything is happening in the chain, like including the order book, including the March engine. And recently, maybe DeFi is more popular in the automated market makers, right? Which is similar, which is like the Uniswap and at the like balance or curve, like different AMM there. However, the order book based DEX in the Binance Chain, we think that will be still have a future, especially when the institutional is coming, right? I think for the traditional market maker, And for the traditional like financial service company, right, they do like this kind of the user experience there, right? Even a lot of the customers, right, especially from the traditional institution, they like that one. So we think that that's a potential opportunities in the future as well. For the Binance Smart Chain, it's totally like a Ethereum based chain, and we really based on the Ethereum technical stack there, and we build that one, right? And it's majorly for the dApps there. So that means any kind of the applications can run in the Ethereum can easily migrate to the Binance Smart Chain or port to the Binance Smart Chain, right? But the important part is, as I mentioned, for the Binance Chain, we try to build the bridge between that. So what exactly meaning for this bridge? One is the tokens can be transferred in between, and another important part is we also introduce like staking, right? So Binance Smart Chain, we really introduced this is our first chain, really introduced BNB staking there, which means you can, because in the Binance Smart Chain we have 21 validators there, and it's quite similar as depots there, which means you can delegate your BNB and get the rewards from the validators participants. And this one are very important for our dApps infrastructure. Yeah, and a lot of the DeFi innovation dApps will happen in the BSC side.
Great. Zhao, if you go to questions,
hopefully answer the question.
Yeah, if you go to question segment, you can see.
Sorry, Simran, I think you are in mute.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry, got some issue for just
no
stuck.
Problem. No problem at all. So you can just pick up a couple of questions.
Sure.
What are the funding opportunities for building on Binance Smart Chain? Can you please also outline timeline for Hackathon? Okay, I'll take this up. So basically, we under our 50 million blockchain for India fund, we have two segments, and under that, if your product is like an MVP or it's like it's in its initial stage, we consider you for the hackathon. And if it's in the later stage of the product where you have a community, where you have something really going on for you, that's when we actually consider you for the acceleration program. And once that's considered, we have a lot more steps and a lot more standard protocols that we go through before giving anyone the kind of funding opportunity that we're talking about. So yep, that's from my side. So you can check out the other questions.
Sure.
Vikram Bhushan, we really know Vikram. Vikram is the co-founder of Hypermind. He's asking if any interest for Binance in on-chain identity management.
Oh, yes. Actually, we already have one on-chain identity management deployed in the Binance Smart Chain. So I can share that one. I don't know how many of you already follow our blog. So let me share that one in the chat, so everyone can get that information. So we do have that one already deployed. So hopefully everyone can try that one. Can try that as well. But if any other projects are interested in for the identity management to supporting the Binance Chain, also very welcome for that one.
Great.
By the way, for the identity management, yes, it's important for the for the security related business, right? So and we do have some blog related with this one, and this is quite critical for the regulated business as well.
All right. Abhishek here is asking, what are the minimum requirements to be a validator node in BSC?
Sorry?
What is the minimum requirement to be a validator node on BSC?
Oh yeah. So actually, we do have documents in our Binance org docs, right? So basically, you need of course you need to have your info for that one, but you also need to get 20,000 BNB at least for the Binance to be a qualified validator candidates. And of course, you can try to get more, for that one, because everyone can delegate their BNB to your validators, validator candidates as well. Every day we will pitch, we will pick the toppest, right? The top 20 one validators from our candidates. Just for information, we already get like multiple from our community as well. So one candidate, validator candidate is also quite interesting. They even introduce some new ideas to get these 20,000 BNB through the IDO in our platform. So it's quite a new idea, an innovative idea. Yeah, just for information for that.
Pranav Tej has a question here. What kind of cost to consider when we consider BSC to build set of DeFi solutions?
Sorry, can you repeat? What's the code?
What kind of cost to consider when we consider BSC to build set of DeFi solutions? When we are building on BSC, what are the costs like?
So I think the DeFi, right? So it's not just itself like cost there. I mean, from the network, the cost it's quite, to be honest, it's quite cheap, right? So because we are the one is the network is very fast and the gas fee is very cheap. And the most important part, I think, as Sammy shared, and also like WazirX founders shared, right? So a lot of things is the cost is not network side. It's majorly for your, how do you try to engage with your community? How do you make sure you get enough security, right? Audits for your projects. So that's quite critical for your project to run that one, right? So we see some of the startup like new projects to try to deploy their protocol. It's very quick, right? But however, if you want to run as a successful project, you need to have a lot of consideration for that one. And of course, a lot of guidance, right, from our previous sessions, right? I believe it can help you to get a lot of ideas for these kind of areas as well.
All right. Let's just answer like the last question. There's Sanjay Mishra's question. What kind of products we can build on this technology? If you can give an example. He basically asking what we can build on BSC.
Actually, everything, we do not want to limit our imagination or innovative ideas, right, from all the angles. So far, as I mentioned, for the Binance, this is majorly focusing on the DeFi. But just think about the DeFi, it's not just like lending, AMM, right? So I believe we have more. And I'm personally from the traditional financial service company, investment bank, right? So I currently see a lot of the opportunities there for different distributed DApps there, right? So as I mentioned, the real world essays, and we also can see like more OTC related, auction related, right? All of these DApp are you can build on top of that. The simple word is everything you build for the Ethereum, you can try it here, but more, right? And of course, we're looking for more new ideas from different DApps in the Binance Smart Chain. And for the Binance itself, or the Binance Smart Chain positioning perspective, we absolutely want to position the Binance Smart Chain as a financial infrastructure, right, to enable that areas. So use your imagine. Yeah, everything you can imagine, you can try, and just to think about because our testnet is quite cheap, right? So and the network fee is very cheap here. Performance is good. It's very good for you to experiment any kind of the new ideas in our chain. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I think we should wrap up a session at 6:05. It's been a really long meetup. It was 3 hours long. Thank you so much for joining us, Xiaoguang. Like your insights really matters a lot to all of us. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who's here. It was really great. You guys are amazing. It's an amazing community of DeFi that we have in India. And we're going to try and grow this as much as we can. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll be ending the session now.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, Zhao. Bye. Bye,
yeah.
guys.
Good
Bye,
night.
everyone. Good night.